Tonight recite Pandavarjan Prabhuji will be reciting in Sanskrit and Usha Mataji will be reciting in English from Canto 3, Chapter 25, verses 1 to 15. And at 8:40, there will be a bhajan singing, and I will be singing Jai Anilo Premadhana, and Grish Prabhuji will be reading English translation of the bhajan. So thank you. Pandavarjan Prabhuji, can you please start with invocation 3 times? Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much for opportunity to start. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Tonight we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 25, The Glories of Devotional Service. Text number 1. Shonako Vacham Kapelastatva Sankyata Bhagavanatma Mayaya Jata Swayam Aja Sakshat Atma Paragaptaye Niranam.
Hare Krishna, the Sanak said, although he is unborn, the Supreme Personality of Godhead took birth as a Kapil Muni by his internal potency. He descended to disseminate transcendental knowledge for the benefit of the whole human race.
Nayasya Varashamana Pumsam Varyamana Sarvayoganam Vishruto Shruta Devasya Mahuri Pripyante Me Asavaha.
Sanak continued, there is no one who knows more than the Lord himself. No one is more worshipable or more mature a yogi than he. He is therefore the master of the Vedas, and to hear about him always is the actual pleasure of the senses.
Yat Yat Vidhate Bhagavan Svajantatmatma Mayaya Tanime Shraddhanasya Kirtanyaya Mukirtaya.
Therefore, please precisely describe all the activities and pastime of the personality of Godhead, who is the full of self-desire and who assumes all these activities by his internal potency.
Sudavacha Vaipayana Sakhastavam Maitreya Bhagavam Stadaha Prahedam Viduram Prita Anivikshipyam Prajodataha.
Sri Sud Goswami said, the most powerful sage Maitreya was a friend of Yasdev. Being encouraged and pleased by Vidura's inquiry about transcendental knowledge, Maitreya spoke as follows.
Maitreya Vacha Pitare Prastite Aranyam Mato Priya Chikirshaya Tasmin Bindusare Avatsit Bhagavan Kapila Kila.
Maitreya said, when Kardama Muni left for the forest, Lord Kapil stayed on the stand of the Bindu Sarovar to please her mother Dehuti.
Tam Asanam Akarmanam Tatva Margagradarshanam Swasutam Deva Hutyaha Dhatusam Samsmarati Vachaha.
When Kapil, who could so heard the ultimate goal of the absolute truth, was sitting leisurely before her, Dehuti remembered the words of Brahma had spoken to her, and she therefore began to question Kapil as follows.
Devahutir Uvacha Nirvina Netaram Human Asat Indriya Tarshanat Yena Sambhavya Manila Prapanandadham Tama Prabho.
Dehuti said, I am very sick to the disturbance caused by my material senses. For because of this sense disturbance, my Lord, I have fallen into the abyss of ignorance.
Tasyatvam Tamaso Anghasya Dushparasya Dyaparagam Satshakshurjanmanam Ante Labdham Metvat Anugrahat.
Your Lordship is my only means to getting out of this darkest region of ignorance, because you are my transcendental eye, which by your mercy only I have attained after many, many births.
Ya adyo bhagavan pumsam ishvaro vai bhavan kila lokasya tamasanhasya shakshar surya ivotitaha.
You are the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the origin and Supreme Lord of all living entity. You have arisen to disseminate the rays of the sun in order to dissipate the darkness of the ignorance of the universe.
Adhami deva samoham apakrashtam tam arhase yo avagraho aham maniti etasmin yojatastvaya.
Now be pleased, my Lord, to dispel my great delusion. Due to my feeling of false ego, I have begun engaged by your Maya and have identified myself with the body and consequent bodily relations.
Antvāgataham sharanam sharanyam samritya samsarataro kudaharam jivyasayaham prakrite purushasya namami sadharma vedam varishtham.
Dehuti continued, I have taken shelter of your lotus feet because you are the only person of whom to take shelter. You are the axe which can cut the trees of material existence. I therefore offer my obeisances unto you, who are the greatest of all the transcendentalists, and I inquire from you as the relationship between man and woman and between spirit and matter.
Maitreya vacha iti svamaturan niravadayam ipsitam yashamyapam sam apavarvardhanam. Yadhinayatmavatam satam gatir pabhashay ishat smita shodhitanaha.
Maitre said, after hearing of his mother's uncontaminated desire for the transcendental realization, the Lord thanked her within himself for the question, and thus, his face smiling, he explained the path of the transcendentalists who are the interested in self realization.
Shri Bhagavanubach Yoga Adhyatmika Pumsam Matoni Hrishya Sayame Atyanto Paratiryatra Dukhasya Cha Sukhasya Cha.
The personality of Godhead answered, the yoga system, which relates to the Lord and the individual soul, which is meant for the ultimate benefit of the living entity, and which causes detachment from all happiness and distress in this material world, is the highest yoga system.
Tam imam te pravakshyami yam avacham puranaghe rishinam shrotu kamanam yogam sarvam damai punam.
The most pious mother, I shall now explain unto you the ancient yoga system, which I explained formerly to the great sages. It is serviceable and practical in every way.
Chatakhalosya mahaya muktaye chatmano matam gunyeshu satam bandhaya ratam vapum samuktaye.
The stage is which the consciousness of the living entity is attracted by the three modes of material nature is called conditional life. But when that same consciousness is attached to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one is situated in the consciousness of liberation. Hare Krishna. Thank you for giving me a chance.
Hare Krishna, thank you so much, and please
Thank
forgive
you,
for
Usha
all offenses
Mataji.
made.
Yeah, thank you, Usha Mataji and Prabhuji. Really nice recitation. Thank you.
Yeah, really nice recitation. Thank you so much, Hare Krishna. Try to share my screen. Hare Krishna, everyone. So today we are discussing verses 12, 13, and 14 from the third canto, chapter 25. So with your blessings, we would start. So verse 12. Maitreya vacha iti swamatur nirvadyamipi shita Sitam nisamya pumsam apavargavardhanam dhiya bhinandayatma avatam satam gatir bhabhasa ishad smita shobhita nana. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. Maitreya said, after hearing of his mother's uncontaminated desire for transcendental realization, the Lord thanked her within himself for her questions, and thus, his face smiling, he explained the path of the transcendentalists who are interested in self realization. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Devahuti has surrendered her confession of material entanglement and her desire to gain release. Her questions to Lord Kapila are very interesting for persons who are actually trying to get liberation from material entanglement and attain the perfectional stage of human life. Unless one is interested in understanding his spiritual life or his constitutional position, and unless he also feels inconvenience in material existence, his human form of life is spoiled. One who does not care for these transcendental necessities of life and simply engages like animal in eating, sleeping, fearing, and mating has spoiled his life. Lord Kapila was very much satisfied by his mother's questions because the answers stimulate one's desire for liberation from the conditional life of material existence. Such questions are called apavarga vardhanam. Those who have actual spiritual interest are called sat or devotees, satam prasangat. Sat means that which eternally exists, and asat means that which is not eternal. Unless one is situated on the spiritual platform, he is not sat, he is asat. Asat stands on a platform which will not exist, but anyone who stands on the spiritual platform will exist eternally. As spirit soul, everyone exists eternally. But the Asat has accepted the material world as his shelter, and therefore he is full of anxiety. Asat Griham, the incompatible situation of the spirit soul who has the false idea of enjoying matter, is the cause of the soul's being asat. Actually, the spirit soul is not asat. As soon as one is conscious of this fact and takes to Krishna consciousness, he becomes sat, satam gati. The path of the eternal is very interesting to persons who are after liberation. And his lordship Kapila began to speak about that path. ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनाशलाखया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टम् स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं भूता कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरु श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरुं वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातां सहगना रघुनाथान्वितं त्वं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनासहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Shri Radhe Vrinda Vaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priya Vansha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Devacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhare Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Krishnaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Prachare Vishesha Shunyavadi Prashadai. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to facilitate this session. I seek your blessings as I have no qualifications or realizations. I'm trying to repeat what I've heard from the acharyas. And fortunately, all these three shlokas, there is very nice lectures that Srila Prabhupada himself has given in Mumbai. Don't know the year, but he himself has, let me find out the year. He has given them on November 14, 1974. So in November 1974, he has himself been giving lectures on these. So we've got lots of his teachings which we can reflect on and also hear. So on this particular shloka, clearly, if you just read the translation quickly again, Maitreya said, after hearing of his mother's uncontaminated desire for transcendental realization, the Lord thanked her within himself for her questions, and thus, his face smiling, he explained the path of the transcendentalists who are interested in self realization. We know the beautiful questions that Mother Devahuti asked Bhagwan Kapaladev on. I mean, it's hard for a mother to take that position in front of her son because typically a mother would be the guru of a son at some stage of growing up. But here, it is the humility of the mother where and also the realization that her son himself is the supreme personality of Godhead, as well as her humility that she's not ordering her son to help her understand what she should be doing in her life after having um, had a very opulent material life for many years. Now her husband has left, and she's realizing that she has wasted a lot of time and what should be her purpose of life. Srila Prabhupada talks about transcendentalists when they hear questions from others about spiritual life, they become very happy. As like Srila Prabhupada would say that whenever some new devotee would come to Srila Prabhupada and asks him that, Srila Prabhupada, I want to become a pure devotee. Srila Prabhupada would be smiling and would be really, really happy and would thank him for making that big first step towards Krishna. And the desire is all we have, right? Like if we have the desire for the Lord, then everything else start with that little desire. Srila Prabhupada is talking about, like um, how in the material world we have got Gramya Katha. So there is, I mean, these days it's less, but like there used to be all these newspapers printed and so many trees cut. And he's saying how Gramya Katha through newspapers, and these days the format has changed into social media platforms, but there's so much information, um, so many reels, so many different, um, type of allurement for the mind, which is being presented to us. And Srila Prabhupada says that there is that information which is keeping us in this material world. It is like a place for the crows. Whenever there's a big pile of rubbish, we see a lot of crows that would rush towards that place. And they would sit in the rubbish, eat from the rubbish. Whereas our scriptures or Krishna Katha, which is not a Grami Katha, which is the other side, Srila Prabhupada says how it is the place for the swans. Says how swans by nature, they come to very clean water and clean parks and other places. So swans is who we need to be try to become, that's why swans in Sanskrit or Hindi are called hamsas, and we call advanced devotees as paramhamsas, because they are the swans who would um, go and be naturally attracted towards the Vedic scriptures, towards Krishna Katha, towards devotee association. And that's what Mother Devahuti is already showing an indication how she is making a big switch in her um, life to go towards being more sincere in her devotional life. And we know how Srila Prabhupada kindly, showed his mercy towards the various hippies to make them happy. I mean, if you go back to the hippies and their way of life of drugs and breaking the regulative principles everywhere, um, they were so much entrenched in the material ways of life, and how Srila Prabhupada lifted them through love and Krishna Katha, that they became the happies. And happiness and Krishna consciousness or spirituality is just divine and transcendental, and we know that. I mean, the second point Prabhupada was making was that Mother Devahuti, when she approaches her son, um, like I said before, like she was not ordering her son, she was genuinely taking shelter. So the whole the way in which we approach either the spiritual master or um, even a shiksha guru or anyone senior, or even a peer or a junior, for spiritual knowledge. Her attitude was taking shelter, and Srila Prabhupada says how humility is so key, because if we feel that we know everything, then there is no way we will be able to assimilate any knowledge. Like there's a Prabhu in Soho Street who does a lot of book distribution, and he says whenever he's out on streets and he's trying to give a book to an Indian or people from Indian origin, they would say, "Oh, I know it. I know it. I've got the book." Um, and you ask them about the 19th chapter in Bhagavad Gita, and they'll say, "Yeah, yeah, I know the 19th chapter in Bhagavad Gita." As well as, oh, the book, oh, my parents have it, my mother has it in India. So essentially, I think it starts with a little humility that we may not know everything. It starts with um, submissiveness and taking shelter as well. Then Srila Prabhupada went on to explain the concept of Shreyas and Preyas. We know, like when a child is just playing, he wants short term pleasure, as Srila Prabhupada would give the example of education, which is where you're investing for the long term. So while if we apply that to our daily life, it is ahar nidra bhaya maithun, right? Like eating, sleeping, mating, defending, is what people are busy doing in the day-to-day life, which is prayers, and it is required to maintain the body. But the real spiritual education, which is Shreyas, is really important for us to, keeping the long term goal in mind and progress and get out of that, what in this verse it is called as apavarga. So, pavarga. This in the second line it says, um, Nishamya pumsam apavarga vardhanam. Apavarga vardhanam. So what is pavarga? So in the Sanskrit letters, it is ka ka ga ga da cha 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 ha and others, and then pavarga, which starts with pa, it's pa pa ba bha ma. So Srila Prabhupada explains how pa stands for parishram. So it starts with our life starts with parishram, which is hard work, which leads to phena, pa pa. Phena is when a horse does a lot of hard work, it creates foam. So that's phena. Then ba, he says, is byartha or vyartha, which is, like useless. Then that leads to bha, ba, pa, ba, bha. Bha stands for bhaya, which leads to fear. And then finally, pa, pa, ba, bha, ma. Ma stands for mrityu, which is death. So we are caught in this pavarga, which is we do hard work, which, creates some unwanted or vyartha wealth. It also creates, bhaya or anxiety or fear of losing it. And then finally we die and we leave everything behind. And then we take birth again, we do the same cycle again, and then caught in the cycle of birth, old age, disease, death, and this is pavarga. So apavarga stands for getting out of this cycle of pavarga, which is where this shloka says apavarga vardhanam. Vardhanam means increasing or growing. So how do we move out of this bodily existence to a more spirit, to grow the spiritual you know side of our existence, or where we grow our spirituality and our connection with the lordships. So and also it says, how do we slowly gain our interest in coming out of this pavarga? Srila Prabhupada was saying that, the Lord, about the pavarga itself, other than human beings, there are, say, birds, there are animals who all survive, right? They all get food to eat, Their basic necessities are taken care of without doing all the parishram, all the hard work that we need to do. So if we, I mean, the Lord will make arrangements for our pavarga, for our daily needs and necessities. But this human form of life, which is such a you know rare phenomena, we have to use in terms of focusing on the Supreme Lord and developing our relationship with Him. We know how in Bhagavad Gita also the same concept is highlighted between Arjuna and Krishna, and Arjuna also initially he's very confused, and then how he finally surrenders to the Lord and says, I'm very confused, Lord. I surrender into you. Please guide me what I should do. And Lord later in Bhagavad Gita also says in 434, Tadvidhi patena pariprashnena sevya abdekshanti te jnanam jnaninas tattva darshana. So where the Lord says, just try to learn the truth by approaching a spiritual master. Inquire from him submissively, render service unto him. The self realized souls can impart knowledge unto you because they have seen the truth. So, yeah, one who hears attentively and does service to the spiritual master or the guru. The guru is happy, and it also in this shloka talks about Atmavatan, which is interested in self-realization. I think that's Atmavatam, which is interested in self-realization. And yeah, I think that is the basic qualification, that we need to have some self-realization, because that's when we can ask about Shreya Uttamam, which is the Shreyas Uttamam, the Uttamam Shreyas, which is about spirituality for us. And when Bhagavan Kapil Dev hears about this inquiry from his mother, he becomes very glad and says thank you in his heart or in his mind to his mother. Similarly, when one becomes interested and goes to the spiritual master or a guru, he becomes very pleased. We know of so many places in our Shastras where they have been, similar approaches. Like Srimad Bhagavatam is full of that, right? Like when Parikshit Maharaj went to Sukadev Goswami and says, what should one do when they have only 7 days to live and knows that they will be dying in 7 days? What should such a person do? And we all know about and Sukhdev Goswami becomes so pleased with him. So likewise, when the sages of Naimisharanya, they get together and they ask the 6 important questions to Sutta Goswami around what is Param Dharma. We all know. Yato bhakti hridayakshare. Savai pumsha paro dharmo yato bhakti hridayakshare. So like how Sutta Goswami answers that. But essentially, what are the param dharma? What is the essence of all Vedic literature? And then questions about Krishna, and then what happens when Krishna leaves the world. They're all like really profound questions. Like our Srila Prabhupada, when he first met, like how Narendra somehow convinced Srila Prabhupada to go to His Divine Grace Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, his Guru Maharaj, and how in the first meeting, initially Srila Prabhupada had in his mind that you can follow spirituality when India is kind of independent, and he was part of Gandhi's independence movement. But when he met his Guru Maharaj, um, and how he explained to him is that i- India can be independent or not, but I think our purpose in life is to become independent from this Jan Mrityu Jara Vyadhi. How do we come out of this birth, death, old age, disease? And I think that's when Srila Prabhupada realizes how profound um, his spiritual master was, and how he's been missing the point that he was spending so much time in things which are more binding him to the material world, instead of progressing further towards his spiritual connection with the Lord. We know similarly. There's so many examples, but like even Dhruv Maharaj, when he goes to, we all know the story how Dhruv Maharaj was trying to sit in his father's lap, Uttanapad's lap, and how his stepmother um, um, asks him to come down and says, "You haven't been, born from my womb, so like you cannot sit on your father's lap." And when he goes to his mother does not say ill about his stepmother. In fact, she says, "Do not think ill about your stepmother, Dhruv." Suniti says that to him. But you should, and she directs him that you should go to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayan, um, and make your request to him. So, like, I think the whole connecting to the right person in the right manner is just so important, and then follow through and listening to them is so important. I was also listening to Gauranga Prabhu, one of his shorts, um, where I think it was probably His Holiness Radhanath Maharaj's Vyas Puja. He was very young still, and I think they had this. He was recounting past time when he had gone to Kurma Kshetra Yatra, in Andhra Pradesh, where Nrsingadev, no, Kurmadev is there, and he was saying how devotees were going into the water. There must have been a lake or a pond or something, and devotees were going into the water. And Maharaj asked Gaurang Prabhu, "You're not going?" And he said, "Well, Maharaj, I don't know swimming." So Maharaj said, um, "Oh, then you should accept a guru in swimming and learn." So he asked Stoka Krishna Prabhu if he knows swimming. So Stoka Krishna Prabhu said, "Yes, Maharaj, I know swimming." So Maharaj says to Gaurang Prabhu, "You should accept him as your guru and learn." He says, "Oh no, Maharaj, I tried 2, 3 times before, but I had not been able to learn." So Maharaj says, "No, no, no, you have to show humility and accept him as a proper guru, and then now that you've accepted him as a guru, you will learn." So by his blessings, Gaurang Prabhu says how he learned and he could swim a little bit, and then he said the big change from before to now when he could swim was because he had um, Guru's mercy and taken proper shelter. I mean, we've got so many examples as to how people have so many personalities in a movement took shelter. We have got 2 more shlokas to go, so I will move us on. I know 8:40 we have also got a bhajan planned, so I will move us on if I can share my screen again. So if you move to next 13. Shri Bhagavan Vacha Yoga Adhyatmika Pumsam Mato Nihishreya Sayame Atyanto Paratiryatra Dukhasya Cha Sukhasya Cha. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. The personality of Godhead answered, the yoga system which relates to the Lord and the individual soul, which is meant for the ultimate benefit of the living entity, and which causes detachment from all happiness and distress in the material world, is the highest yoga system. In purport by Srila Prabhupada, in the material world, everyone is trying to get some material happiness. But as soon as we get some material happiness, there is also material distress. In the material world, one cannot have unadulterated happiness. Any kind of happiness one has is contaminated by distress also. For example, if you want to drink milk, then we have to bother to maintain a cow and keep her fit to supply milk. Drinking milk is very nice, it is also pleasure. But for the sake of drinking milk, one has to accept so much trouble. The yoga system, as he has stated by the Lord, is meant to end all material happiness and material distress. The best yoga, as taught in Bhagavad Gita by Krishna, is Bhakti Yoga. It is also mentioned in the Gita that one should try to be tolerant and not be disturbed by material happiness or distress. Of course, one may say that he is not disturbed by material happiness, but he does not know that just after one enjoys so called material happiness, material distress will follow. This is the law of the material world. Lord Kapila states that the yoga system is the science of the spirit. One practices yoga in order to attain perfection on the spiritual platform. There's no question of material happiness or distress. It is transcendental. Lord Kapila will eventually explain how it is transcendental. But the preliminary introduction is given here. The personality of Godhead answered, the yoga system which relates to the Lord and the individual soul. So, yoga system which relates to the Lord and the soul, which is meant for the ultimate benefit, parodharmo, ultimate benefit of living entity, and which causes detachment from all happiness and distress in the material world, is the highest yoga system. We know also yogi namapi sarvesham. So, like the highest yoga, and here we know like um, how there are various yoga systems. Kapil Dev is the profounder of Sankhya philosophy, we know that, and Srila Prabhupada was saying that how um, like over a period in our lifetime, how many friendships have we had? He was saying how when he was in the US, he formed new friendship, and there were so many friendships he have had in his lifetime that he would not even remember. And similarly, like he has had so many dreams. At night we may dream that we are the king, and we may not even remember. So what we need to focus on is Nihishreyasaya, and that is Shreya. Shreya and prayer, which we discuss, Shreyas and prayers. So saintly person is actually guiding us to the permanent as to what is it. What is in this shloka? It is said, Nihi Shreya Saya. Nihshreyasaya, for the ultimate benefit. So we have to focus on not just for temporary benefit, various activities, but if we were to focus on the permanent benefit or the ultimate benefit. And also in the shloka it is said, Atyanto Parata. Sorry, I'm just trying to look for the word. Yeah, adhyatmika, relating to the soul. So I think it is quite clear that he's talking about that yoga which is related to the soul, which leads to ultimate benefit. So Adhyatmika, which is related to the fold, and Niha Shreyasaya, which is for the ultimate benefit. And then Srila Prabhupada goes on to explain like how, the regular Ashtanga Yoga, which is Yam, Niyam, Asan, Pranayam, Dhyan, Dharana, Samadhi, all that is so difficult. We have to first control the senses, then we have to control the mind, then we have to practice the various sitting postures, which are all very hard. Then we have to meditate, then we have to contemplate, then we have to, absorb ourselves and like this whole process is just very difficult. And I think for the Kali Yuga, where um, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has made it so easy for us by chanting the holy names of the Lord, Hare Ranama, Hare Ranama, Hare Ranama, Eva Kevalam, Kalau Nastev, Nastev, Nastev Gataranyatha. So, like, I think we are just so fortunate that we can attain, we can look to aspire for the highest, for the ultimate, benefit by such a simple means. Is talking about different levels of spiritual realizations, right? So I think first level is just that we are the spirit soul, as in Bhagavad Gita. We know how the whole chapter 2 is dedicated to talking about how we are the spirit souls and not this body. And um, we learn about the henamsman yatha dehe kaumaram yovanam jara tatha dehantar prapte dhiras tatra namuyati. Like how we don't even realize, and it's very very hard to realize that we are the spirit souls. And how Lord Chaitanya also talked about our relationship with our body and mind, and how naham vipro nachana vitir. But eventually he says gopi bhavto padakamaleo das dasana das, like I'm not uh, basically, I'm not Vaishya Shudra, I'm not in the Varnashram Dharma, I'm not this, that, but I am the spirit soul who is the eternal servant of the Lord. And how Srila Prabhupada went on to explain how Bhakti Yoga is supreme. I don't know if you heard Gauranga Darshan Prabhu's Gita Prabha. If you haven't, I would highly recommend. There are about 30 lectures, and he goes through the whole Bhagavad Gita really nicely. It's only recent, like 2 months back. So if you search on him, you will find it. And I think he summed up Bhakti Yoga really well, for me at least. He said, yoga stands for linking to the Lord, which we know, right? We have heard so many times. Yoga means the real yoga is to link to the Lord. So through karma yoga, we are actually linking our body and senses to the Lord. We are doing activities, karmendriya and others, and through that we are linking to the Lord. Through Jnana Yoga, we are linking our intelligence to the Lord, which where we are cultivating our spiritual intelligence about the Lord, and then we are linking to Him through that. Dhyana Yoga or Ashtanga Yoga, we are actually linking our mind to the Lord. So we are meditating on the Lord and putting our mind onto Him. Bhakti Yoga, we are actually linking our soul to the Lord, as in this verse it says, Adhyatmika. So like we're linking our soul to the Lord, and all the other yogas are already contained in Bhakti Yoga, because Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Dhyana Yoga, everything is contained, because Bhakti Yoga in a sense, includes all these other yogas in the whole sense. I'm conscious we have 6 minutes to go, so I'm going to move us on to the next verse. If I were to just, sorry, I'll share my screen again. So, yeah, verse 14. Tam imam te pravakshami yam avocham puranage rishinam strotu kamanam yogam sarvanga naipunam. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. O most pious mother, I shall now explain unto you the ancient yoga system which I explained formerly to the great sages. It is serviceable and practical in every way. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The Lord does not manufacture a new system of yoga. Sometimes it is claimed that someone has become an incarnation of God and is expounding a new theological aspect of this absolute truth. But here we find that although Kapila Muni is the Lord himself and is capable of manufacturing a new doctrine for his mother, he nevertheless says, I shall just explain the ancient system which I once explained to the great sages because they were also anxious to hear about it. When we have a super excellent process already present in Vedic scriptures, there's no need to concoct a new system to mislead the innocent public. At present, it has become a fashion to reject the standard system and present something bogus in the name of newly invented process of yoga. Yeah, I mean, this knowledge is not changing even in Bhagavad Gita. I think 4.1, Krishna starts the chapter saying, Shri Bhagavana Vacha imam vate yogam proktavan aham avyayam vivasvan manave praha manur ishk vakave abravait. The personality of Godhead, Lord Shri Krishna said, I instructed this imperishable science of yoga to the sun god Vivashvan. And Vivashvan instructed it to Manu, the father of mankind. And Manu in turn instructed it to Ikshvaku. So essentially, this this science of self-realization is not something that is new and should be concocted. And Srila Prabhupada, when he was commenting on this verse, he was laughing about Hatha Yoga. He was saying like how we are concocting new type of yogas, but we don't need to, because yoga, which means linking to the Lord, is the same, and it doesn't need to change because it is eternal. And whether we live in the age of all the material opulences and technology and AI and generative AI and whatever it is, in a sense, the applicability of the yoga system, which has been coming for forever, is still the same. I mean, we are still not the body, we are the spirit, soul, why we are here, what is our purpose in life. None of that is changing. Maybe some of the formalities, some of the way of life may have changed, but the core process, the fundamental principles are still the same. Srila Prabhupada says, if you're in the right train, simply by sitting, we can reach the right destination. But if you're in the wrong train, running inside the carriage is useless, because we're not going to go there. So, like, I think as long as we are following the process nicely, we know that this is pramanic, this is coming from disciplic succession, and we are so fortunate to have, the association of the devotees and the teachings of our parampara that is coming down for us and so easily available to us. We are 2039, so with that, I'm probably going to pause there. Please forgive me for any mistakes. I'm just trying to be like a parrot and repeating what I've heard. So if there are any comments, for maybe 30 seconds or a minute, we can take that. Otherwise, we can move on to the bhajan. Thank you so much. Mataji, do you know who's doing the bhajan?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, thank you very much for the very nice class. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Yes, thank you very much. So tonight we have Kirtita Dulali Mataji singing a beautiful bhajan, Je Anilo Premadana. And Girish Prabhuji will be reading the English translation first before Mataji sings the beautiful bhajan. So over to you, Girish Prabhuji, please. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. He who brought the treasure of divine love and who was filled with compassion and mercy. Where has such a personality as Srinivas Acharya gone? Where are my Swarup Damodar and Rupa Goswami? Where is Sanatan? Where is Raghunath Das, the savior of the fallen? Where are my Raghunath Bhatta and Gopal Bhatta, and where is Krishnadas Kaviraj? Where did Lord Gauranga, the great dancer, suddenly go? I will smash my head against the rock and enter into the fire. Where will I find Lord Gauranga, the reservoir of all wonderful qualities? Being unable to obtain the association of Lord Gauranga, accompanied by all these devotees, in whose association he performed his pastimes, Narottam Das simply weeps. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. যে আনিল প্রেমাধানা করুণা প্রচুর যে আনিল প্রেমাধানা করুণা প্রচুর হেন প্রভু কোথা গেলা আচার্য ঠাকুর হেন প্রভু কোথা গেলা আচার্য ঠাকুর যে আনিল প্রেমাদানা করুণা প্রচুর कहाँ मोरा स्वरूप रूपा कहाँ सनातन कहाँ मोरा स्वरूप रूपा कहाँ सनातन कहाँ दासा रघुनाथा पतित पावन कहाँ दासा रघुनाथा पतित पावन कहाँ मोरा बटा जुगा कहाँ कबीराज कहाँ मोरा बटा जुगा कहाँ कबीराज एक काल कोठा गेला गोरा नटराज एके काले कोठा गेला गोरा नटराज जे अनिलो प्रेमादना करुणा प्रचुर পাশাবে কুটিব মাথা আনালে পাশিব পাশানে কুটিব মাথা আনালে পাশিব গৌরাঙ্গা গুণেরা নিধি কোঠা গেলে পাবো গৌরাঙ্গা গুণেরা নিধি কোঠা গেলে পাবো সেসব সঙ্গীরা সঙ্গে যে কইল বিলাস সেসব সঙ্গীরা সঙ্গে जो কইল বিলাস সে সঙ্গ না পায়া কাঁদে নরোত্তম দাস সেসব সঙ্গা পায়া কাঁদে নরোত্তম দাস যে আনিল প্রেমাধনা করুণা প্রচুর যে আনিল প্রেমাধনা করুণা প্রচুর হরে কৃষ্ণা কৃষ্ণ কৃষ্ণ হরে 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 রামা রাম রাম হরে 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 কৃষ্ণ 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 হরে 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 রাম 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 হরে 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 কৃষ্ণ 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 হরে 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 রাম 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 হরে হরে शिला प्रपात की जय नरोत्तम दास ठाकुर की जय थैंक यू माता जी हरे कृष्ण
Thank you very much, Mataji and Prabhuji. Thank you very much. So, Sripati Prabhuji, are you there?
Yes, Mother.
So, shall we open up the class for questions and realizations and reflections? Anyone would like to make any comments before we end the class? Okay. So, let's say our Vanchakalpa prayer, Prabhuji. Vanchakalpa tarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyaya patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo
namo namaha.
Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda ki
जय
Jai, Srila Prabhupada ki
जय
Jai, Srimad Bhagavatam ki
Jai.
Jai. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu. Good class.